That JT Miller game winner yesterday probably sent shockwaves through the city of Vancouver, especially given how this game started. I mean, the Oilers take an early 1-0 lead, and it's off the stick of the guy from Vancouver. At that point, it really felt like it gave the Oilers a jolt, plus the whole Calvin Pickard story that has started to brew for the past couple days. Then on top of that, at the end of the first, they get a goal from the fourth line to take the lead again. For a team that's been desperately wanting offense outside of the big boys, that felt like a pretty big moment. It felt like it gave a cushion to guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Bouchard to not have to provide all of the offense for them to win. Instead, they provided zero insurance and were held pointless except for Draisaitl, who had 1 assist. And most of the time, that's not going to fly against a team like Vancouver. You're going to need to score more than 2 to win. The key turning point moment in this game for me, though, was the brutal turnover by Evan Bouchard that led to the DiGiuseppe goal to tie the game in a really key spot. It completely blew the roof off the building. It looked like it deflated the Oilers, and despite not being the game winner, that turned out to be a really key play in the game. Now, I don't think the entire loss should be blamed on Bouchard. I mean, it should be a mix of the Canucks deserve some credit. They played really well. And like I mentioned, the Oilers as a team looked kind of deflated and flat when it mattered most. But it was a really important moment that clearly had a huge impact on the game. And it's nuts because the game before, Evan Bouchard scores the game winner almost at the same time that JT Miller scored in this one. He played the hero. And I know it was technically Ian Cole, but in overtime in game 2, Bouchard is the one who makes that play happen. And because of it, he's credited as the overtime hero. The guy makes huge plays for this team. I mean, he's third on the team in scoring in the playoffs, 82 points in the regular season on the back end. Like, I don't care who you're playing with. That's impressive. He's a phenomenal offensive defenseman that the Oilers clearly need, and plenty of other teams would love to have. That's the good. The bad is that in the defensive zone, he can be a bit of an adventure sometimes. And like that Matthews play, it can look pretty brutal, especially if it's in a key game. And the ugly is, well, what we saw from him last night in Vancouver. Look, it's not rare for an offensive defenseman to be a bit of an adventure in the defensive zone, but straight up giveaways in front of the net when you're winning 2-1 in a 2-2 series, when you had a ton of time to make the play against the other team's fourth line, that's worse than bad. That's the ugly for sure. And it wasn't just that, like he had 3 or 4 picked off passes and some pretty bad decisions. And look, I know some fans are not going to like this. They're going to say no Bouchard slander, but that's the thing. It's not slander to be pointing out the reality of what's happening. Like, obviously, you take the bad with the good because he provides you with so much good on the offensive side. And he's extremely, extremely talented. But you cannot make plays like that in huge playoff games. And yes, I understand we're all human. We all have bad days at work. It's understandable for him to have an off night. But even on an off night, you've got to bear down a bit to not make, like, egregiously bad decisions. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I actually think he's a really good player. But he's got to sharpen up defensively if the Oilers want to have a chance to come back in this series. The Boosh bombs alone aren't going to cut it. Again, though, the Canucks deserve a ton of credit for how they played yesterday. The way they battled and their mentality throughout the game, like, that was something to watch. As usual, give me your thoughts in the comments. Oiler fans, what's Evan Bouchard going to get on his next contract? It's coming up kind of soon. He's an RFA at the end of next season, and I understand the offensive production means he's going to get a lot of money, but also, he does play the position of defenseman, so that should factor into his salary as well. Let me know. Please subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. You're awesome.